Good morning, guys. Welcome back to our health literacy and healthy habits class. We are now in week 3, so thank you guys for coming back. If you remember, the first week we kind of learned about our diagnoses and what health conditions we have and the symptoms that go along with that, so you guys can kind of learn how to manage those. And last week we talked about emotional regulation and coping skills. So this week we're going to kind of take that mental health component that we've been talking about and blend it in with our physical well-being. So we're going to be talking about nutrition today.
Okay.
All right, so here's just the basics. So nutrition is the study of food and how its nutrients affect the body and our overall health. We have a video to show, but we'll just give that to you guys at the end. That way you have something to reference. It kind of breaks it down for you. But just knowing that a good diet and what we're putting into our bodies can help to prevent diseases, it can support healthy development, increase energy levels and mood, and also contribute to our overall well-being. So these are just a couple of the in-depth components, but I don't want us to fixate on that just yet. I want us to just get comfortable with what nutrition is as a whole, and then we'll go back to that.
And we really want to emphasize that diet is 70%. So while you could have good exercise habits, as well as good sleep habits, if you're missing that dietary component, you're really not adding to the overall picture of your health. So this is going to be a large component that we really want to emphasize in this course.
All right, so what is a balanced diet? So it is going to be what includes the right amount of macros. So again, we are not going to get into depth with that, but along with a variety of foods from the different food groups. So this is a little overwhelming to look at, but it's the old food guide pyramid. We're going to look at something that's a little simpler today. But do you guys have any idea of what the 5 main food groups are?
Fruit.
That's one of them. Good job.
Meat.
Meat is one of them. Proteins. Yeah.
Dairy.
Yeah?
Dessert.
So dessert is tasty, but it's not one of the 5 main food groups. Yeah.
Vegetables.
Vegetables.
Yes,
Good job.
You guys got 4. Can you think of the 5th?
Oh, grains.
okay.
Grains.
Good.
Grains. Okay. So you guys think of one last one? We have the fruits, vegetables, proteins, grains.
And you said it earlier.
Yeah, dairy.
Dairy.
Perfect.
Okay, awesome.
So these are the 5 main food groups, and then this is going to break it down. So this is a little more simple to look at than the old food guide pyramid. And so we'll be looking at this website a little bit today. We'll provide this link. It takes you there. It will teach you about each of the food groups, and that's what we're going to dive into next.
Perfect. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about fruit. So how much fruit do we actually need? So we should be having 1 cup of fresh or frozen or canned fruit. You can do half a cup of dried fruit, or you can do 100% fruit juice, 1 cup of that. Some of the benefits with that: increased amount of fiber and potassium we eat, most low in sodium, fat, and calories. Daily?
Yeah.
This is going to be daily, yes.
So, do I have to have 2.5 cups of fruit, or is it just I choose one of those?
So this is something that you can kind of personalize to your own preference. Obviously, we're all going to be different, and sometimes, you're going to want fruit that might be fresh or frozen or canned. So that's why we want to provide you guys a few different options here so that you can choose what you want to be eating on the daily.
Okay.
And this is also too where the MyPlate website comes into handy, because you can go in there, you can put in your demographics, like your height, your weight, and health conditions. It will kind of customize and personalize a diet for you and tell you the amount of fruits and other food groups that you should be consuming a day.
Okay, so vegetables. So how much vegetables should we be eating in a day? So again, 1 cup of raw cooked or frozen vegetables is acceptable. You could do 2 cups of raw leafy salad greens, so that's our spinach, our kale, things of that sort. 1 cup of 100% vegetable juice. Some people that might not be your preference, and that's totally fine and completely understandable. And then some of the benefits, so it's really nutrient rich. It's a good source of fiber, just like the fruit. And then it promotes healthy digestion and has vitamins and antioxidants to help strengthen your immune system. And so your immune system is something that helps defend against, those germs and viruses that we can get in our daily life sometimes. And then getting into protein, so those are our meats, right? Our chickens, our beef, pork. Okay, I'm hearing some.
My favorite.
Okay, wonderful. Okay, so you guys shouldn't have a problem with getting your protein in then. So again, so this is going to really depend on your age, gender, height, weight, and then the amount of physical activity that you're doing in a day. So like Sarah just touched on, we can go ahead and put all those demographics into the MyPlate, and it'll kind of customize the right amount of protein that you should be having. And so some benefits of protein. So those are the building blocks for our bones, for our muscles. So we want to become big and strong, right? So we need to get our protein intake in.
What happens if you're allergic to pork?
Well, that's why we have different options, right? So there's also beef, there's also chicken. You can actually,
Is there
fish.
any plant-based?
So there are plant-based sources of protein. That's like what? Like
Tofu,
yeah.
lentils, things like that, legumes. Yes.
Yeah, good questions. Okay, so moving on to grains. So those are like our breads and whatnot. So again, it's gonna depend. So it's gonna vary by person. A lot of people eat too many refined grains and not enough whole grains. So, think of something like a McDonald's burger. That's going to be more so like our refined grain versus like some whole wheat bread. That's going to be more so of our full grains. And some of the benefits of that is an important source of carbs, which we do need, dietary fiber, vitamin B, and then again, fiber is really important for that. Kind of get things moving in the system. It's important for proper bowel function.
I need that.
Okay.
Good to know.
Yeah. And then dairy. So 1 cup of milk, 1.5 ounces of natural cheese. So if you're not really a milk person, you can also have another option there. And again, some of the benefits: vitamins and mineral rich. It's good for healthy bones and teeth.
And if you guys are maybe lactose intolerant, so sorry Kevin, one moment, I'll get your question. If you're lactose intolerant, there's other options too. So I know the hospital has, soy milk, almond milk, oat milk, different ways that you can get that dairy in without having to actually drink that, the 2% milk. What's your question?
Do you guys like almond milk?
It's alright. Yeah, it's okay for sure. I know people have different preferences though. Some people like, almond milk, oat milk, a lot of different types of milk these days. Okay.
All right, so now taking what we just learned from Jessie, all the things that we touched on, we want to kind of understand how our diet impacts our mental health and well-being. So what you eat affects how you feel. Like when you guys eat something that's more of like a junk food, like chips, a candy bar, like how does that make you feel? Like, do you have any moods associated with that, Kevin?
It makes me feel good in the moment.
Makes you feel good in the moment.
Yeah.
Okay, in the moment is what I want to stick on there. So then afterwards,
My God.
long
A
term,
little bit of a tummy ache.
belly
Yeah.
ache, sugar crash.
Sometimes.
Diarrhea,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. The gut's not happy, right?
Yeah.
No.
Our body has a weird way of rejecting things that are not necessarily good for us, and so we will kind of experience those symptoms. It's okay, Kevin.
Yeah, and it's really good to pay attention to how you're physically feeling, but again, also how you're mentally feeling after eating certain food groups.
100%. So our healthy foods are going to help keep that more stable mood. They're going to allow us to have better focus. I know sometimes we have a hard time paying attention to certain things, especially in classes. So this will help our attention span a little bit, and it's going to reduce our stress and anxiety. So then we know that junk food, sugary drinks, and processed foods can cause mood swings, increase anxiety and depression, and lead to energy crashes. So it's important to pay attention when you are eating those things, how it's going to affect your mood. Okay?
Definitely. And Kevin, you touched on a really good point because you said in the moment it makes you feel good.
Yeah.
So that can happen a lot with things that are really high in sugar. We can feel this high burst of energy when we eat something like a candy bar, but then in like an hour or two, we get really, really sleepy and just lethargic, and we end up not feeling as good as we did in that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I know you guys have access to like the vending machines. You go on pop runs, like you're allowed to do that
Yeah.
once a day. Exactly. We all
Yeah.
love that. It's such a nice treat. But just being a little more mindful when you're doing that, saying maybe I just need to have one treat like that a week,
Yeah.
and trying to cut back just a little bit.
But what if that's my favorite part of my day?
And that's great. And you can still have that favorite part of your day. Just kind of enjoying that in moderation. We
Correct.
don't want to keep having that be the best part of our day and focusing on that, because then it's going to kind of promote unhealthy habits. So maybe also finding
It's about
an
balance,
alternative.
right? Yeah, so you can still
100%.
have your little soda here and there, but maybe also including some water as well in that too.
Yes.
Okay, so we're gonna go ahead and practice this.
Yes, so we have a worksheet for you guys. I kind of want us to think about a meal. So this is the My Plate chart that you guys saw before, right? And it's broken down in those 5 different food groups. I want you guys to think about the last meal that you ate, and in each of those boxes from that meal, write what you had. So if you had any fruit, grains, vegetables, protein, and kind of keep that in the top of the box. If you have any questions, let us know.
Is noodles brains?
Yeah, essentially it's like a refined carb. And then when you guys are finished, just let us know. We're going to talk through it,
Yeah.
and we'll have another part to the activity. Okay, you guys all done?
So let's go ahead and review what you guys put down for each category. So let's go ahead and start with the fruits category. Kevin, why don't you go ahead and share with us what you put?
And a couple strawberries.
Okay,
I like strawberries.
nice, that definitely counts.
I did a sad face because I didn't have any fruit.
Ooh, okay, got you, something to definitely note.
And is that personal preference, or there's just no fruits that you were liking?
I didn't like the fruit that was available.
That's available. I know that's hard sometimes when you guys kind of have those like pre-made meals. You don't really get a lot of choice in the meals that you're eating from day to day. So I know that can kind of be a barrier when you're trying to get in the fruits, vegetables, things like that that you
Yeah.
enjoy. Okay.
Okay, so how about our protein? What did you guys put for that category?
I had a sausage in a bun.
Sausage in a bun, okay. So you hit your protein and your grains with that then.
Mm.
Nice job.
Perfect.
How about you?
Sesame chicken and lo mein noodles.
Where'd you get that?
Wow.
They had it last night.
Are you lying?
You didn't choose that option?
No.
Okay, let's try to stay on task. So, what did
She's
you
lying.
And I don't want us to accuse any of the other, our friends or patients, because we want to, use them as supports here. So let's try to stay focused on the task and support each other and see how we can kind of help each other form these healthy habits, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. So how about for our dairy? Did you guys put anything for that?
Root beer.
Root beer. Okay, so I love that you tried something. You put something in that category for sure. So with root beer, that's not going to be in the dairy category. That's going to be more so the sugar.
Yes.
Yeah.
I just saw the circle, so I thought it meant a cup.
Yeah, that's a little confusing. I totally understand where your thought process was with that. Kevin, you didn't put anything in the dairy category.
I didn't have dairy.
Okay, got you. So do you not like dairy stuff? Like, do you not like cheeses and milks or whatnot? Or you just didn't have anything
I
that
just
day?
didn't have any.
Okay, got you.
It's okay. I don't want this one meal to be, the focus of, oh, I didn't have it this one meal, so,
Yeah.
and don't be down on yourself for that. There's room to improve things, and that's why we're here to help you. We're going to kind of go through these categories now, and if you could choose a meal that you'd like, let's write on the bottom of each category, underneath what you already have, kind of one food that you'd like to have in each of those. The great thing about the state hospital is that based on your guys' preferences, we can kind of advocate for you guys to dietary, and they can take your guys' intake into consideration.
Okay, I filled my two when I didn't have.
Okay.
All right, you guys want to share? Like, give us two things. Like, if you could make a change to make this plate a little more balanced, what are things that you'd add or that you'd like to eat?
Corn on the cob
Yum. It's a good
and
choice.
watermelon.
Okay.
Love that. Okay.
I say I would like little cheddar square blocks
I know exactly what you're talking about. Those
for
are
the
delicious.
dairy.
Okay.
And Brussels sprouts.
Yep.
Ooh, that's hearty. That's a great vegetable.
All good.
Yeah. Okay, see, and there we go right there. We have different preferences, and that's okay.
Right. Kevin, are you doing okay? Okay. All right.
Nice now.
If you need a second to step out, you can feel free to do that, okay?
We know this is a lot of information.
It is. So again, if you have questions, let us know. But I think you guys are doing great, okay? All right. So now that we did that, you guys kind of have an idea of things that you want to add or change. Jesse's going to talk about some other ways of mindful eating and practices.
So Sierra had touched on this a little bit earlier. We talked about how we really want to provide you guys with a realistic strategy to have healthy habits. So with mindful eating, it's essentially allowing us to still have the things that we really like those things like Dr. Pepper and maybe an occasional candy bar, but also adding in some healthy foods as well too. But maybe, having water the first thing in the morning instead of a Dr. Pepper, or, having your candy bar like maybe once a week or twice a week instead of every single day. So just being mindful about what we're actually putting in our bodies and not just mindlessly eating and kind of like stuff in our faces, even though that's something that can be really easy to do. And so with this, so under the mindful eating category, so one of the tips is to eat slowly. You don't have to rush, you can enjoy your food and pay attention to the experience of eating. Pay attention to what you're liking, what you're not liking, maybe the texture of it. So really immersing yourself in that experience. Listening to your body's needs. Does something upset your stomach? If that happened, okay, that's a food that we don't want to ingest anymore. Based on feelings versus calories and restrictions. So again, we don't want to provide you guys with all of these restrictions, all these, you can't have this, you can't have this. We really want to provide you with strategies that make you feel good. And so when you feel good, you're going to be more encouraged to stick with these habits. With portion control, so maybe using a smaller dish. Sometimes when we have a really big plate and we just kind of overload with food, we're like, okay, well we have to eat everything on our plate, right? Because we want to be good eaters in that way. But sometimes we don't need all of that food. So using a smaller dish will help us to really control our portions so that we're eating the right amount of food. And then paying attention to those serving sizes as well. So again, we don't have to eat like full meals where we're like, oh, my stomach hurts, I can't move. We can eat smaller portions so that we feel better after we eat. And then limiting our high calorie foods in meals. So again, just paying attention and then having a balanced plate. And a really good way to make sure that you're having a balanced plate is colors. So do you have different colors on your plate? Do you have your greens, oranges, reds maybe from a strawberry, blues from a blueberry? So that's a really easy way and telltale sign that you have a balanced meal. Colors. Good job taking notes, Tab. Okay, and then these are just some current trends that are currently going on in the modern day and age of different diets. So we have the Mediterranean diet. So a lot of people say that's a really ideal diet. It's a lot of fish and whatnot. Plant-based, keto, anti-inflammatory, gluten-free. Some people have different dietary restrictions, so we just want to provide you with some different options for various diets that you can implement into your life.
Does the kitchen offer these diets?
So that's kind of why we're going over some of these, because we really want to provide some advocacy for you guys. If you do have any dietary restrictions, we can go ahead and be a voice for you guys and kind of let the organization know so they can be mindful about what you guys are comfortable putting in your bodies.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we know that with like the pre-portioned meals, the things that they offer you here at the state hospital, there are some barriers that we face in being able to choose the meals we want or to be able to cater to these certain dietary preferences or needs.
Yeah.
But we really want to provide you with those life skills so that you can take what you're learning here, take some of these trends and ideas and apply them to life outside too.
Yeah, and that's kind of why I want to get you guys thinking about what you like, what you don't like, maybe what kind of diets you do want to invest in, because we can't help if we don't know, right? So you guys have to kind of communicate with us so that we can then go ahead and take that to the higher ups and make sure that everyone is included with these healthy eating habits.
I think someone told me that Mediterranean diet, however you say that, is good for autoimmune diseases.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of the fruits, the vegetables, the fish that have those healthy, they're called omega-3 fatty acids, but they're just healthy fats essentially. They kind of help with that inflammatory responses that you get from autoimmune diseases. They're very antioxidant rich, and so those kind of just help to boost our immune system. They all have different things that are healthy for our bodies in there.
Definitely. It all plays a part in helping to manage those chronic conditions that we were talking about in those previous sessions.
Okay, and so with all this information, like we said, we know it's a lot, but we really want you guys to give yourselves grace throughout this. We all have unhealthy habits that we are working towards changing, but one small step every day is enough, and it will make a huge difference. So again, start with one small change at a time. You can swap that Dr. Pepper, like Jesse said, for a water, or add one vegetable to a meal per day. They have open mall walks that you can go out in different fitness groups with rehab that you guys can get involved in. Go try a new fitness group and get involved in that way. Nutrition just isn't all about diet, it's also about that physical component as well.
Definitely.
So every small step makes a difference.
Okay. So now that we're kind of wrapping up the course, we want to go ahead and turn it to you guys. What is one thing that you learned from what we talked about today?
Small changes
Yes.
are good.
Yes, good job. We don't want to overwhelm ourselves with too much change. So little small changes on the way to a big change is the best way to tackle that.
I learned about the 5 categories of food.
Good job, Kevin. Yeah, that's a huge takeaway from this class for sure.
It's very big.
And go ahead.
Okay, so now that you guys have learned all we talked about today, what do you guys think a challenge you might face with making these changes would be?
Choosing the right food when they give us the options.
Mm.
I really like meat and I really don't like vegetables.
Yeah.
But I'm gonna try and add one per meal.
Perfect. I love that.
Making sure when I order everything that I eat everything and I don't leave the stuff I don't like eating, like the vegetables.
Yeah.
Definitely. Hopefully, eventually, we can find a vegetable that you like a little bit more, and so you don't have to just be eating things that you don't like. That's going to be really hard to keep up with for sure.
Exactly. So based on what we talked about today, there's just a little handout for you guys to take home with you. We know it's a lot of information. That link, that My Plate, is on the bottom there, so you guys can check out that website. And then it's got all of our main tips there. Thank you for helping me, Morgan.
Yes. Yeah, so that's just a little reference for you guys to take home. Like we said, we know it's a lot of information, so just kind of having something that's tangible and on a piece of paper so that you can reference it if you have any questions. And then we also wanted to give you guys a little food diary. And so if you take a look at this is going to have your 3 meals of the day, so breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And then you can go ahead and kind of track what you're eating throughout the day. And that'll kind of help you with that mindfulness component that we talked about. So instead of just, mindlessly eating whatever throughout the day, you have this document and you can put down what you have for breakfast, what you have for lunch and dinner. Did you have any of that protein, those veggies, those fruits in it? And so this will kind of give you a log of what you're actually putting in your body. Because, how did you feel after eating those different foods? So what was your mood? You can put any little notes that you also want to jot down there. And then in the next session, we can talk about how you did, any challenges that you ran into when you were trying to have some healthy habits throughout your day.
You guys have any questions for us before we wrap up?
When will we see you next?
So next week, you guys will be seeing us. We'll be touching, like Jesse said, a little bit more on this and how this ties into our mental health and managing those chronic conditions that we're facing, okay? So that's kind of what we're going to be working on next week at the same time. Any other questions for us?
Thank you.
Okay, sounds good. No, thank you guys.
Have a great rest of your day.